Okay, so to be clear, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get Pro Q3 or Pro Q4 now. I have to say this now because people who already have it are going to yell at me. I've used Pro Q3 before. I know what they added into Pro Q4. They're great EQs. I promise. Like, they're worth the money. I agree. I'm not saying you shouldn't get them, but what I am saying is you should watch this video before you get them because someone kind of alerted me to a free alternative that does almost everything that Pro Q3 and Pro Q4 can do, which is awesome. And it's free. The only downside is it's not tested like Pro Q3 is. It's missing a few features, but it also has a few features that those don't have. So let's get into it. Now, this is going to be another one of those videos where I'm not just talking about a plugin. I'm also talking about the thing it does because I haven't really talked about EQ yet. And someone in one of my previous videos was like, yo, can you do a video on EQ? So I got you. That's what we're doing here. Now, this beat right here is a beat that my friend made. I'm going to link to his channel in the description because he told me he wanted me to. Anyways, he's a little bit newer to music production, so he wanted me to like take this beat and use it in a video to like explain how to improve it, I suppose. So yeah, it's nothing crazy, but I'm proud of him for getting this far. Good job, AJ. Solid little beat that he cooked up here for being so new to making music. So I'll play a little bit of his beat. It's basically just a cymatic sample. He added his own bass and then a couple of drum loops. So yeah, cool. So I'm going to go on and pop this EQ on and start talking. Now the EQ, I haven't actually said the name yet. The EQ I'm talking about is this one right here. It's called ZL Equalizer. And as you can see, it's definitely inspired by FabFilter's EQ plugins. And it really does do like almost everything that those do. It's crazy. So like if we play, you can kind of see where they're at. Now, one feature I would love for them to add to this, if I'm being picky, not that I need to, this is like crazy EQ for being free, is in the Pro Q3. I haven't used Pro Q4, but my studio has Pro Q3. When you hold down on here, it'll show you like the peaks. Like you hover your mouse over the waveform there, it'll show you the peaks, and then you can kind of get an idea of like where your attention might need to be. But yeah. Let's just start with EQ. So why do you need to do EQ? There's two uses for EQ. One is to fix problems, and two is to change the tone or the timbre or the color of something. So what do I mean by fixing problems? Well, it's possible that you have a frequency that's like ringing out that you don't like to ring out. I'll show you an example. I have an example on another beat that I'll show you later. So that's like one thing. Like you have a problem you want to fix. There's a really annoying frequency or it's ringing out too long that you just want to kind of tame. Another problem could be that the instruments are masking each other in a way that is bad, like the kick in the 808. So you could EQ parts of the kick to make it stronger or parts of the 808. Like there's a lot of things you can do to max problems. And then on the other side, changing the tone, that's just like more creative choices. So like, let me take the sample here. It's very dark, and I think he did that on purpose. Yeah, you can see he EQ'd it about as dark as you can get it. But if I didn't want it to be that dark, I'll add the ZL under all of the stuff he did because I don't want to mess with it too much. So you can see the waveform. Maybe I want to, you double click on this EQ to put a point. I don't actually remember how many bands you get. It's a lot though. Could, boost it like this. To change the shape. So this is a peak. If I want to change, I've got low shelf, high pass. So I guess I could go through what all this means because not everyone knows. So more beginner stuff here. Peak is this is also called a bell curve sometimes. It just looks like this. You have all of your adjustments down here. So gain is just how much you're boosting those frequencies by. This frequency knob is the same as moving it here. So if you have the gain set and you want to change the frequency, this is like you can sweep through. This is actually a good thing to do if you're trying to diagnose a problem. You can like boost the frequency and then sweep until it sounds as bad as possible, and then you can make the cut. Generally, you could do really big cuts. This is in general, so take this with a grain of salt. Big cuts are fine, but big boosts like this are not as natural sounding. Now, the problem with placing a lot of these surgical cuts like this, like very sharp cues, the cue again is just how wide the band is. If you do a lot of these, you can keep double clicking, you get a lot of bands with this, and do a bunch of like really sharp cuts or boosts, it can sound unnatural. So you have to be careful with that too. Now anyways, I think it's important to also talk about how EQ works because not everyone knows this. EQ is not just as simple as boosting the frequencies. What it's actually doing is shifting the phase of the track, like the audio in the track, to remove or boost the frequencies. Now, there's a whole conversation about what phase is, what it does. It's kind of a complicated conversation for another video, but keep in mind, you're not just boosting the frequencies, it's shifting the phase, which can cause problems with live instruments. So if you're mixing mic'd up instruments that were all mic'd up in the same room, perhaps there's some bleed, you need to be careful about EQing because it's possible that you could cause some phase cancellation. And quickly, phase cancellation is basically the microphones are, they're picking up the sound. They're correlated. We call it correlated because the mics are picking up the same sound. And usually it's the same performance. So like, let's say there's like on a drum kit, there's a snare drum mic and a kick drum mic. And there's a little bit of bleed between the two mics, right? Those two mics have a little bit of the similar sounds in them. So they're correlated, which means that if their phases are misaligned, which is basically a time of arrival thing, the sound from the mic will hit their capsules at a different time. It could cause them to cancel each other out. Now, I'll talk about phase in another video because it's a very big thing, but all you really need to know for this video is when you're EQing, if you're EQing live instruments that were mic'd up in the same room, you have to be careful with EQ because it could make some things sound weird because of how it works. Anyways, put that aside. You don't need to think about it if you're just making a beat anyways. So let's say I wanted to make this a little bit brighter. Well, could do this. This is not a great example because he EQ'd this to be really dark because that's just what he wanted to do. I'll use it on the 808. A good way to try to get the 808 and kick to fit together is, well, he's got some sidechain here, so it's already pretty good. But I put one on this kick. One thing we could do is, what if I want to boost the fundamental of the kick? Now, I like Pro Q3 for this because it'll kind of tell you what the fundamental is if you hover down here, but you can still kind of figure it out based on the waveform here. So let's let's select this. Sounds great. So you can kind of see this is the fundamental, and don't be afraid to push this thing. Some people like EQ and they're like here and then they cut here. You can do that, but just don't be afraid to abuse it a little bit to get the sound you want. So yeah, kind of boost that fundamental, look like it's around 60 hertz or so. And then I like to cut. Now again, listen to the sound. Don't do the same moves every time. But usually kick drums have kind of a knocky, rubbery, shitty, quite frankly, sound around 250 hertz. So I'm going to boost this. Another big feature of this EQ, if you hold down on this thing, this headphone button, you can listen to just this band, which is something that I really wish the default EQ in FL Studio had, the parametric EQ. Pro Q3 and Pro Q4 have it, of course, and I think theirs is a little bit better because it really mutes everything else. This, I've noticed, doesn't completely mute everything else, but it's pretty good about it. So that's the drum. ZQ equalizer. If I hold down on this headphone button, or just click it, I guess, you can kind of hear. But see, it's not perfect. You can still hear some things outside the band, but it's pretty good. So yeah, this knocky sound we don't like, so I'm gonna kind of, or at least I don't like. Everyone's different. Cut the gain here a little bit. So that's a good sounding kick. So if I bypass this signal, that's what it sounded like. Now, I think I'm wearing headphones, so it's probably a little bit easier to tell, but it's definitely punchier. And then sometimes if I want to make sure that the kick can be heard on phone speakers that don't have as much bass, I'll find a frequency here and just kind of boost it a little bit just so you can kind of hear the clickiness of the kick. That really depends, though. I'll do that. Cool. What else is there to do? Obviously I'm using very specific examples, and in a minute I'm going to switch over to a beat I made because I have a very interesting example I wanted to show you about the dynamic part of this. But let's do one more thing here. Let's say he didn't EQ out the low end of these hi-hat loops. I don't know if he really needs to, but again, remember, he's a little bit newer to making music. Yeah, there's not really any low information here that I need to cut out. So there we go. We made the kick a little bit punchier. I'm going to switch over to one of my beats now and show you some stuff that I did. All right, so here's my beat, and the part I want to show you is over here a little bit. So I got a bunch of stuff going on in this track. a lot of consolidated clips because my CPU would not be able to handle otherwise, but I got the piano roll versions of the MIDI versions, I should say, of them over here. What I wanted to show you was this part right here. Now I'm going to cut the EQ a bit, and I actually might adjust it a bit because I didn't do a great job. These are some stereo piano tracks. I pan them left and right and change the processing. Remember, not to get into it too much because it's an EQ video, but something can only be stereo if you process the right and left differently. If you just pan them left and right, it's the same as them being mono. Anyways, you might notice I've got a little bit of a different thing going on here. So what is this? Well, this is dynamic EQ, which is another feature that the Pro Qs have, and the fact that this thing has it as a free EQ plugin is crazy. So I'm just gonna do both of those for now. Now, if I turn these off, what I noticed is that it's a little bit, well, there's a frequency that kind of rings out. Let's see if you can hear it. There it is. Did you catch it? Right here. It's like right here. I don't like how that sounds to me. You can kind of hear the reverb going like, whoa, and it's a little bit of a bad sound. Now, if I turn these EQs on, I can show you what I did. Generally, when you're EQing, the reason you want to do dynamic is because you don't always want to EQ things all the time because, again, they can sound unnatural. It's better to do as little EQ moves as possible in general. So if you can use dynamic EQ, which is basically what it does, is it listens to the surrounding area and it'll only go down once it passes this threshold down here. To get to the dynamic, you hit this. This button right here will kind of learn it for you. So if you need like to get like a very general attack and release, knee, stuff like that, it can do that for you. But it's this kind of diamond right here, and this frequency is what it's listening to. Now I've noticed that you can actually change what frequency this is listening to based on how it reacts. So like it'll react to 95 hertz now. That's a feature that Pro Q3 and Pro Q4 don't have. I can't really think of a reason you'd do this. Usually you want it to react to the same frequency. You'd hit that button right there and it kind of snaps back into place, which is cool. Now, so you can see, I need to move this over a little bit, but that one frequency that's kind of annoying, it's ducking down right there, and I think I did that on the other side too, although it wasn't as bad on this one. Yeah, I've got some dynamic EQ. So mess with that too. Basically hit this button right here. I guess I can show you, but I don't really know off the top of my head. Let's go to this part over here because this is a cool part of the song. So one more time, I'll show you the dynamic part on this part with this lead right here. Honestly, here, I probably wouldn't use the dynamic necessarily, but just to, if I, let's say I wanted to boost this frequency at some point, I'd, make the knob here, probably change it to high shelf if I wanted to, and then hit this button, and now this thing is the, like how it'll react to that. Anyways, this video is getting kind of long and a little bit rambly, so I'm going to end it here. Let me know if you want a part 2, because I didn't even talk about the mid-side EQ features of this, and I feel like I could show you some more examples of dynamics, so let me know if you want to do that. But yeah, ZL EQ, go check it out.